I think one of the most unique experiences was in Mongolia in December in Ulan Bator, which was a name I remember we had up on the wall somewhere in Chicago as one of the
54 areas.
Yeah, the 54 areas. So, wow, I never dreamed I'd be in Ulaanbaatar, especially December. But that was a real treat. It was a project of Save the Children Norway. In other words, they supplied money for it and training, and I was hired to do facilitator training with the leaders of this children's program. The Mongolia had been under the Soviet system for about 30 years, and in I think the early 70s, the Soviets left, and well, it must have been early 80s. So they were on their own. That means they didn't have a market anymore for their sheep, their milk, or any of their agricultural produce, and they were impoverished. And many of the population lived in these tents called yurts out in the desert. They didn't have enough money to feed all their children, so the children would come to the city of Ulaanbaatar and live on the streets, or in the winter in the sewers, because it was too cold on the streets. I mean, can you imagine minus 20 degrees? So this particular group they set up tents for these children and did self-help development. The children had already formed their own family system, the older ones taking care of the youngers, but of course they had many diseases living in the sewers, but they loved their independence. So it was not easy for them to come to live in a situation that somebody else had organized. But this children's organization was smart enough to realize that and had the children do their own work. They washed their own dishes, cooked their own food, kept the tents clean and so forth. And in the daytime they would go out on the streets, but at night they would come back to the tents. This was in contrast to the government system, which also had tents for children, but they would do everything for the children, cook their meals, make their beds, everything, and they had rules that they had to live by, and the children hated it and wouldn't stay there for more than a few days. So it was a real learning about self-help development just right there in Mongolia. But the leaders of the leader of the organization had been in Parliament as a minister of children. And the Save the Children people thought that maybe she was a little bit too talked down, and they wanted facilitation training so it would be more participative with the staff. And then the staff in turn could use these methods of conversation and workshop with the government, with the parents, and so forth. So only one person spoke English in that group, but it was really fascinating. And they're a teasing culture. It was very much like Kansas, where I came from, where it was agriculturally based. People tease you, and you just learn to deal with it, even though it might be, not so complimentary. They were always making fun of me because I couldn't pronounce their names, which are very long. It was a lot of fun. And our methods were very much appreciated by them. They loved them. Yeah.
How they get used?
Well, the focused conversation and the workshop were, they would write me back and told me how they used them with government officials and parents when they went out to visit them and so forth.